Okay, very well. Let's see. The moment YouTube says that we are connected. Okay, very good. YouTube says we are online. Alright. So, welcome everybody to another episode of the Code Explorer. The place where we learn to code a new language by trying cool things, bumping into problems, and solving them to reach our goals. My name is Cedric, and today in the fourth episode of the PHP series, we will cover the rest of the control flow in PHP that we started last episode. So basically, last episode we went over the if statement, the switch statement, and the for loop. So these three things were kind of new, what considered being syntax, but not really the concept of a switch, an if, and a for loop was already familiar to me, but perhaps not to you. But it was especially the syntax that was new to me in PHP, and that's what we covered last video. So if you didn't see that one yet and you want to learn how an if statement, switch statement, or a for loop works in PHP in particular, then you should go and watch that video, because in that video we discover how to code that in PHP. So in this video we will cover the remaining basics on control flow and PHP, being the for each loop, the do while loop, and the while do loop. Basically the do while loop and the while do, they are kind of the same, but they are being used in specific scenarios, and in those kind of scenarios they are actually totally not the same, and they are being used for a totally different purpose. Another small remark, I have to make a small point that I've noticed on my last stream. Apparently there was a lot of distortion in my microphone from time to time. Sometimes my voice was kind of muted a small bit, so I've repositioned my microphone and hope it is somewhat better. So yeah, let's dive into it. And also, if we have any time left, so depending on the time, we might also implement our first recursive method, but we're going to see that later on. Okay, so to first of all, we're going to open our NetBeans IDE and take a small look at what we've built in the last episode. So in the last episode we've built ourselves a car class, a car object, with some attributes, a constructor, and some functions that are specifically to this car in order to make it function the right way. So as you can see here, we made an if statement with an else condition. We also used a switch statement in a certain kind of way so that we could use ranges, in our case validations. And to finish off last episode, we also made our first for loop inside this whole class. So what we're going to do today is just we're going to continue working inside the same class, this car class, using the same car object, and we're basically going to come up with some cool things. We're going to try to make the syntax and the methods for the control flow that we want to master inside PHP, and we're just going to make this car work basically. So yeah, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look how a for each loop works, and do while loop and the while do loop. So basically for each, let's perhaps if I want to start with a for each, it might be more evidently if I first of all explain to you what an array is in PHP. So as you might already know, I am a developer, not a PHP developer. I am a C# developer, but PHP is new to me. So basically the concept of an array is already known to me. So I'm going to basically explain it, an array, and I'm going to do that by opening Photoshop and kind of drawing it for you. I hope there are no files left open in Photoshop. Nope, there are not. So we're going to make a new paper, make it a little bit better, bigger, entirely white, and I'm going to attach my Wacom tablet to my PC so that I can draw for you guys. Oops, that was my mic. As I mentioned, I tried to reposition it and I accidentally bumped into it with my hand. Okay, if everything works correctly, I should be able to draw right now. Let's take the pen tool. Yes, we are able to draw. Alright, very fine. An array. For those of you who do not know what this means, actually I'm going to say it different. For those of you who know what an array is, you should, yeah, you can also basically listen to me, or you can just skip this part and mute me for a couple of seconds and then come back in when we handle the array in code. So basically what an array is basically, you can see it as a small table with a certain kind of amount of placeholders to put data inside. So if you see in this, you can see it as like a closet, and where you can store values or variables inside. So basically an array is being defined by you with a certain kind of size, but I'm not sure if it's in PHP also that the size is fixed. It could be possible that PHP the size is not fixed and the array adjusts its own size according to you adding items to the array. Hold on, let me just mute my phone for a second. Alright. So basically when you create an array, it's basically a placeholder for a certain kind of list of items for you to store in. For example, in our case, if we have like a car object, we have our first car, and then we want to store our first car into the array, then we say like, okay, array, and then where the tricky part comes, an array consists out of indexes where all of those objects are being placed. So basically an array consists, this array for example consists out of 5 places, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but the index always starts at 0. So basically the first place in the array where our first car is going to come is basically 0. So when we say like array and the index 0 is car, then our car is going to be located inside the first placeholder in the array. The second one is of course 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's actually the hardest part on, or not really hard, the trickiest part on an array is you define an array, at least in C#, let's say an array with a certain kind of length, and then the index always starts at 0, always. It would really shock me if an array in PHP also starts at 1, because it's almost in any programming language that it starts at 0. So basically, yeah, that's the thing you should know about an array. It's a placeholder for a list of objects which you can store in, and it always starts at 0. And I'm not entirely sure, but it could be that an array in PHP is dynamically if you consider the size. So in C# it's fixed. If you say array with 5 places and then you try to put something like in this case an array with 5 placeholders, and you put something on the 5th index, it's not going to work. But in PHP it might be so that it will automatically attach a new placeholder to it. So let's see that in just a second. So I'm going to put my Wacom tablet aside. We're going to delete the Photoshop file, and let's just search PHP for a small array. PHP array, arrays manual. That's exactly the thing that we're looking for. An array in PHP is actually an ordered map. A map is a type of association values to keys. So yeah, the value is basically the index then, I suppose. This type is optimized for several different uses. It may be treated as an array, a list, vector, hash table. Yeah, but those things, we're going to come to those things. So list, hash table, dictionary, collection, stack, queue. We're going to come to those things in later lessons and in later sessions. But for now, it's going to be just array. Alright, so basically, specifying an array. So an array, you say key is equals to value, key 2 is equals to value 2, key 3 is equals to value 2. So an array can be created using array language construct. It takes any number of comma separated, so the comma is in here, separated key value pairs as arguments. Comma after the last array element is optional and can be omitted. This is usually done after a single line of array. Okay. So, and here we have our first example. Variable array is a new array of key foo and value bar, and then another key named bar and then value foo. Alright. Oh, let's see. In PHP 5.4, it's also, you are also able to just use the square brackets, like you can, I believe, is the same in JavaScript, but I'm not entirely sure. Don't shoot me if I'm wrong. So basically, yeah, let's just try it. Let's just say we got ourselves an array of cars. So, and of course, because this is the latest version of PHP, we're always going to use, you know, the newest syntax that exists. So, we're going to say list is a new array of cars, but for now it's going to be an empty array. So we make our first car. The car is a new car. Alright, and we're going to put the car inside the list. So basically, list, and then I guess car, let's just say 0 is car. Okay, does that work? No, it doesn't work. Unexpected. Alright, so it doesn't expect this one. Key can be an integer or a string. The value can be of any type. String, float, boost. Alright. Example number 2, typecasting and overwriting an example. So let's see. One will give you D. Oh, so it's able to be overwritten. As I can see, an array in PHP is much more dynamic than it is in C#, for example. In C# you say like, okay, we have an array of like ints, and you can store only, but really only ints inside it. In here you can say like, alright, the array with number 1 is A, and then the array with the value of a string 1 is B, and then the array of 1.5, which is a float, I believe. Yeah, indeed, a float, is C, and then true is D, which true basically also is able to convert to 1, because in the past sessions we've seen that we wanted to echo true, a boolean which was true, and then we just echoed 1. Alright, so let's just see something else. 100. Okay, so basically you can store pretty much anything inside these arrays. You can say like, alright, this array consists out of this and then this, and this the key is a string, or the key is an integer, or the key is even a boolean, but you can easily override it. Alright. Indexing arrays without a key. Okay. Oh, alright. So you have many variations of using an array in PHP, apparently. You can also say just give the values to the array and then you can of course access the array by using the index. Then 6 is C. Alright. So that makes some sense. Oh, and of course it's that dynamically that you can just say like, okay, we just put some things in the array like A and B, and then you will say like, okay, number 6 as a key is value C, and then D goes continues in numbering from there on. Alright. Alright. So basically we are going to say this was wrong. I suppose that we need to say like, okay, so list, so our array with index 0 is going to be the value of car. I believe that is not going to give any issues. Let's just say is equals to. Alright, that's more like it. Okay, let's see if we forgot any things. Get array, return array, second element, get array 1. Okay, previously get array. Yeah, no, let's just start with these basics. So basically we've made an array in here, we made ourselves a car. So basic this knowledge, you can see the explanation and how we came up with this knowledge in the previous lessons. So I'm not going to cover this once again. This was also covered in the previous lesson, but we are going to use the code and the syntax. So in our first index we're going to store a car, and we're going to, of course, make a new car, another car, and we're going to say, okay, car 2 is new car. Hold on just a second, someone tried to call me. I'm going to see if they sent any special message, if it is important. Just give me a second. Okay, I told her to just send me a text message. So okay, we're going to continue. A new car, and we're going to give it about 70 horsepower. So it's going to be it's going to have a smaller amount of power, and it's going to be from the brand. Let's say something, just name as a random brand like Ford. It's going to be a Ford. Actually, no. Let's make a bit of a muscle car. Let's make a Ford Mustang with like, I don't know really how much horsepower a Ford Mustang has, but let's say it has about 180 horsepower. And then Ford Mustang, and let's make it a black one. Alright. So our new car is the Ford Mustang, a black Ford Mustang with 180 horsepower. So we're going to say, okay, list, and the first index, so basically that's the second item in the array, is going to be our car 2. Let's just rename this to Mustang. Alright. So normally if we say echo and then list, what was in PHP here, var dump or something, var dump, I'm going to search for the meaning of var dump. Var dump PHP. Alright, what does it mean? Var dump manual. Okay, var dumps information about a variable. Alright, that's pretty straightforward, so let's just do that. Echo var dump expression. Alright, our list. So let's restart our terminal and just, okay, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger for you guys, and also add a next line to it, just so you guys and I can also read it a little bit better. So where was my PHP document located again? And my documents, I think, documents, then learning PHP, and then first PHP, I believe. Alright, and there it is. Okay, car.php. So we run php car.php. Alright, okay, we have a very nice output from the first time. There were no errors, so which is very good. Let's just put these echoes aside. Let's just set them in comment, and let's clear it and rerun the test. Alright, so we echo the var dump of our list, and basically what we get from it is an array with 2 items inside it. In the first index we have an object car hashtag number 1, so I believe it's the first instance of the car that is in this array, and this car has 5 properties, being color from the car is private, it's a string that has the value extra wide, then power also car private integer of 95, it's with a brand of Peugeot, model of 207, and a distance of 0 because it's a brand new car and it hasn't driven anything yet. Yeah, and our second car is black. It's a black. It has 180 horsepower. It's a Ford Mustang with also 0 distance driven. So yeah, okay, we've made our first array, and that's basically fine. Now let's dive right into the concept of a for each loop. So basically what a for each loop does is, it's a simple syntax to say like, okay, we've got ourselves a list or a collection of some objects, and then for each item in this collection we're going to use that item and we're going to do something with it. Alright, so it's a very easy concept, and it's a very easy way to iterate over a list with objects. You could also use just a for loop. You could say like for counter is 1 as long as counter is smaller than list.count, I believe. Let's just quickly search it. PHP array count elements. Are all elements in an array or something, and then blah, 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 blah. So yeah, you can say int count. So you could perfectly say counter is 1 as long as counter is smaller than or equals count, and then between brackets our list, and then counter plus plus, and then after that you just say like, okay, echo list, and then our counter, for example. It's not going to compile, of course, but it's just a matter of example. So if you would say like, if we would put this inside the body, and then of course considering the function has the list, then it would also work, of course. I suppose normally it should be working, but no, we're going to use for each. So we're just going to search for a for each real quick. PHP for each manual. For each construct provides an easy way to iterate over arrays. For each works only on arrays and objects, and will issue an array if you try to use it on a variable with different data or uninitialized data. there are two syntax for each array expression as a value, alright, and then of course your code, or for each array expression as key to the value, alright. I believe if you want to have like the index, if you want to know where you are inside your iteration, you should be using this one, alright. So let's just use the full one from the first time. So let's just say, alright, we have, let's just delete the echo, let's just set it in common, and just say for each as key, alright. So list, it's automatically recognize that I have an array, so it puts list in this place. Key as key value. So basically what it's going to do is it's going to look inside the list, and for each item in list it is going to set the car object, so the instance of the class car to this variable, and then we are also going to be able to use key for the index, I believe. So let's just put that to a test, and let's just say echo first item, no, not first item, so echo key, then together with item in the list of cars is a, and then dot excuse me, value, we should be able to use it, value dot get description, I suppose. Let's just run this and see what comes out of it. Okay, that's better than an error in the first place. So 0 item, so the first item in the array is the list of, in the list of cars is a, this extra white car has 95 power, comma, it has driven 0 kilometers, it is a Peugeot 207. So yeah, it's going to call get description. What does get description? Oh yeah, it just gives a big description of the car, of course, which is basically just fine, and this the thing that we wanted to do. So what we did is we used the index, so that's the, where were we? Oh, right here. We used the index as the key and then the value as the car. Apparently PHP is smart enough to see, okay, this value is of the type car because it is the second object, and or the object that is going to be used in list, and it's going to use the right function of the object. But the thing I do wonder is, what if you have a list with objects of multiple kinds of classes? So if you have like a car class, or let's say a tank class, if you store all of these cars and these tanks in the same list, and then you go and iterate on the list, it's of course not going to, the moment you have, for example, a tank and you call the tank get description, and it doesn't have any kind of method that is called as get description, you're of course going to have a runtime error, or just some syntax error, or just some any kind of error in PHP, I suppose. So yeah, we're going to look into that further the next time, perhaps, or the moment we bump into that kind of problem. But for now we're going to keep heading where we were headed, and we are going to go over do while and while do. So for each, we got for each right now, and we're going to put it in comment because we got it. And then the next, let's say, loop iterator, we're going to see is do while. So basically what a do while does is, as you are going to do something, so a certain amount of block of code, you're going to execute a block of code, and then you're going to check whether or not a condition is met, and if the condition is met, then you are going to keep executing the block of code continuously until the condition is not met. So basically, if we say like, okay, let's just first of all search for some syntax. So do while PHP, do while, very simple. Alright, it's very straightforward basically. So if you just say, okay, do, and then, oh, the wrong brackets, and then while, if you, for example, we could make an infinite loop, and we would be saying here true, do echo how are you, then this would be a very, very annoying script, because while true is true, it would constantly echo how are you. So basically, while true is true, which means forever, it would keep on echoing this sentence. So we're not going to do that, but instead we are going to, let's say, make an index. So let's say I'm going to take a little bit drink a little bit of water here, because my throat is getting pretty is getting annoyed a little bit, my throat. So yeah, where were we? We're going to keep up an index, and based on this index, we are going to iterate over our list. So index is 0, and then we're going to say, okay, echo list, then the index, then the index, then we're going to say that object is going to get, okay, so in here it isn't able to description. Does it recognize it? I suppose it doesn't. Let's just say true, just to get rid of those type. Oh, okay. So basically it was because we had some kind of error here. We had no condition met, that we couldn't get this auto filled in. Alright, so while true, now we're going to say, as long as our index is smaller than our count list minus 1. So basically, if we say count list, it's always going to be returning 2, because we have like 2 cars in here, but we only have index 1, index 0 and index 1. So we're going to need to say, okay, while index is smaller than, oh no, just say while index is smaller than count our list. So while it is smaller than count our list, so which is 0, which is fine, or 1, which is also fine, it's going to execute this one. And after it, of course, we're going to say index plus plus. Now you may be wondering why we are doing this instead of just a for each. This is basically just a very simple example, and of course you won't be using this kind of thing in the real world, because if you want to use this kind of thing, if you want to iterate over all the objects in a certain array, of course you are going to use a for each. But it's just because I want to demonstrate the functionality. I want to explain the difference between the do while and a while do, because the concept of it I already know. As I said before, I am a developer, but it's basically the syntax, which is also very similar to C# now. At least this one is. Maybe some other features in PHP are not. So if you know a do while in C# or a do while in, let's say, I think VB it is, or do while in Java, you're perfectly going to be able to develop or to write some code, a do while and a while do, and PHP. It's practically the same. So yeah, let's just run this. So no, not run this yet. While index is smaller than count list. Alright, let's just run this. Clear, just for the sake of. Alright, we got our first error of the day, which is very good. I want to get these things just to learn how to solve these kind of problems. And alright, call to a member function get description on a non-object in user on line 87. So echo get description on a non-object. Oh, I can see it already. We didn't use our index. I suppose that was a very easy fix, in my opinion. It was actually. It was just because we forgot to use our dollar sign in here for the variable. And this extra white car has 75 power, has driven 0 kilometers. It is a Peugeot 207. So basically, what a do while does, I'm going to explain it. A do while, so the moment this is being compiled or being executed, it always is going to execute this chunk of code. So the block of code, it's always going to execute it once, and then it's going to check whether this condition is met or not, and if it is met, it's going to run it again. So basically, if you use a do while, it's for a certain kind of scenario where you know for sure that it's going to be run at least once. If you want to, for example, clear a list or do a number of steps, and you know for sure it's always going to be at least once, but it is possible that it is exactly once, and you just want to say like, okay, do it once, and then based on that we're going to evaluate something, and then if it is met this evaluation, then we're going to run it again and again and again and again until the evaluation is not met. Or if you add like an explanation sign in here, it is when it is not met, of course. So basically that's what a do while does. Maybe perhaps to explain it, we're going to perhaps create a small function in here. So let's say test as function, and inside this function we're going to echo evaluated, and then if index is 3, then return false. Oh, 2. Oh, stupid syntax. If index is 3, then return false. Right? But why if string evaluated? Unexpected if. Oh yeah, because we forgot that comma again. Right, so we're going to do this test. Alright, so the first time we're going to echo the get description, we're going to add the index 1 up, so it becomes 1. Then we're going to do a test evaluate. Perhaps we would also say index double point and then add the index, and then if it is 2, then return false, which is going to be in here, and if it is returned false, then it's not going to execute this anymore. So else return true. So do this and let's see what comes out of it. Parse error on line 108. Alright, 108. Why do I have a parse error in here? End of file. Why? What's wrong with this? What's wrong? Expected instance of unexpected end of file. What the heck? Okay. So oh, perhaps it is because